Our next speaker is Professor Francois Strydom, who is the Director for the Center for Teaching and Learning at the University of the Free State. Whenever I see him, two words come into my mind, and that is student engagement. But he promised to give us a very interesting talk today on the using of data to build a high-tech, high-touch approach to student success. Now, he promised to keep you on the edge of your chairs. I hand over to him.
Thank you very much, colleagues. Thank you for the opportunity to talk. Thank you to Karen for that interesting introduction and very detailed look at the inner workings behind creating a national movement. So I'm talking to you about the idea of using data to build high-tech and high-touch approaches to student success. I'm going to talk a little bit about, give you a little bit of data. I think there's several people in the room that might know it, but I think several of you might not, about why student success is so important, and I think it will link nicely to what Karen was referring to. Then the University of the Free State's journey, it has been, I think I speak for all my colleagues, a wonderful privilege to be part of Siyaphumelela. I don't know of any of my staff that have not returned from ATD inspired, and it has certainly helped us significantly in our own journey. Then I'll talk to you a little bit about analytics. I'll also refer to scaling support a little bit, and then some new work in nudging, some new national resources we're trying to develop with our colleagues in Siyaphumelela, and then capacity development. Right. So in terms of the imperative, the social justice imperative of student success, here's two graphs, and this is by Servaas van der Berg from the University of Stellenbosch, and it's a 2014 analysis, and you can see there, let me do the laser thing. Okay, so you can see there, here is employability probability, and here's your years of education. So the simple trend to follow is the more you stay in education, the better your probability of being employed, very similar to what you said. And then log wages per hour, what happens to your wages? So similar to the international trends, that the longer you're in education, the better your opportunities. This slide is going to be very different, Karen. There we go. Right. So this is an analysis by the World Bank which shows the private returns that you get from being in different educational sectors. So the light gray is primary education, dark gray is secondary education, the orange is tertiary education. Look at sub-Saharan Africa, right? There's high-income countries. There's all economies, right? So if we had an international example of how important college university education is, in sub-Saharan Africa, this is something that fundamentally changed the trajectory of your life, right? That is why we've had protests. Our communities know this, right? Our universities can be engines of equality, less poverty, right? So I think we don't often enough remind ourselves on the journey of just how important our work is in our context and what a big difference it does make to the trajectory of people's lives. The next slide, sorry to disappoint, is about student engagement, Charles. So I want to talk a little bit about the journey that started in 2007 and why we chose student engagement. Now, I'm not going to talk about the arrows around. All those arrows we know very well. The pre-tertiary experiences, the international pressures, rankings, and so on. I see the newest ranking came out this week. Those of you in the top 8, congratulations. National pressures, and then we all want our students to graduate, right? But at the very core, and when we started this work, for us it was absolutely essential to put the student in the middle, right? So, student engagement is student agency. What do students need to do to be successful in their studies? Or they must have effective educational behaviors. And what should institutional responsiveness? What should institutions be doing to help the students succeed? Right? How did Free State put students at the center? Did we have tons of focus groups? Did we have legotlas with students on the direction that we should take? No, we looked at the research, the importance of the student voice, and we've put, I think, but Sonia, we have to calculate this, I think we've been listening over the last 12 years to about 50,000 Free State University students. Because we take their data seriously. When they respond to a SASSI questionnaire, that data is directly used now in our number one strategic goal, which is student success, but Dr. Van Staden will speak about that tomorrow. So I won't elaborate too much further. So, what have we been doing? And I think the examples that Kresge has allowed us to see, both at ATD, but also with Georgia State colleagues, has been to think a little bit bigger, think about scale. Now, I did a 3.5-hour workshop with my wonderful team this morning on how to scale student support, so I'm not going to refer to that again. But I did want to point out how taking these initiatives to scale. In our case, it wasn't just one big thing. Our center, we were in the privileged position that we are the Center for Teaching and Learning, and we could straddle the academic and support spaces in the institution. So we created a first-year seminar based on some of the best examples in the US and also broader, which now, or in 2018, reached 9,200 students, providing them with transitional support. This is a flipped classroom, so no student is ever in a class, in a discussion class of bigger than 50. So the high tech is that all the learning happens online, and then the discussion classes are where students interact. Only in authentic learning experiences are the classes much larger, where we get experts and motivational topics, and also industry leaders to come and talk to our students. The next was our tutorial program, the Academic Students Experience Excellence Tutorial Program, Vodia. That reaches 10,200 students. We've got 312 tutors across our two campuses, and it has very sophisticated data analytics. The attendance data is updated every 30 seconds. We can write reports now that took us, I think Evodia said it was, 3 months? We write in 60 seconds now because we were able to draw the data and populate templates, and we just have to quality control. Then academic advising. Here the high tech and high touch are together all the time. We've got face-to-face students. I think Gugu and her team see about 4,000 students a year on an individual basis, but we've got group advising. So we've got a unit inside UFS 101 that talks about aligning your educational plan and your career plans. So all students in UFS 101 is exposed to an advising experience, even though many of them might select not to go to an advisor. We do target certain students and encourage them to come through nudges. I'll speak about that in a bit. And then we've got digital platforms. As Tim Rennick said, not every student wants to have an advising relationship or needs an advising relationship, i.e. a face-to-face meeting, to be successful. Some students might just need to be pointed to the right website. They might just need an SMS at exactly the right time, which is the point of why we do analytics. Then Language development, we've scaled. Many of you will have noticed that the University of the Free State is now an English institution. The English medium of instruction is the more correct way to put it. We offer language support this year to 10,683 students in courses that they have to take. This links to what Karen referred to as the developmental education courses. And our writing center helps 18,000, I think this is a dated, we added the Kwakwa campus, so it's 18,400 students in 2018. So how did we do that? Do we have an army of writing consultants? No. Face-to-face in Bloemfontein, we see 4,000 students face-to-face on an assignment. But digitally, we help 10,000 people because a lecturer in geography can contact the writing center and say, Francois, I have an assignment for my geography students. Can you help me to structure it so that they know how to write an assignment in geography? And we've got digital workshops that scaffold students to work through their assignment. And we've got the impact data to show the difference that it makes. And then lastly, this is our student success portal. This was constructed from 500 articles and websites that were reviewed on success portals and about 1,000 YouTube videos, which we trawled for the ones students liked the most. We asked them to evaluate it, and then, of course, we also looked at it. We've got 36,000 active users of that website. In the first 2 months of this year, 41,000 students visited that site, and this is also an OER, right? So this, all this input work we did is freely available on the condition that if you change it, you share with the rest of us, right? Then, in terms of improving analytics, we've got the Tshehetsa project. Now, Tshehetsa in Sesotho means to support. And this is driven by Dr. van Staden, our DVC academic, who is trying to get our academics to put more marks earlier on our systems. I'm sure nobody has that problem in this room, because it's a bit difficult to do analytics if you don't have marks, right? So this is a significant intervention that we're working on related to this project is developing risk models, and any difficult questions in relation to risk models, I'll refer to either Charles or to Ruan, because I try to keep up. But what we're finding, shockingly, is that how you did in English matters. It is a massive predictor of success, as massive as things can be in our field. I'll show you how we did this in a second. Your average credit load, part of what Karen alluded to in her slide, how many credits do students register for, how does that impact their start, the total number, the average number of modules, their weighting, and also the total number of modules. So you can see a lot of nuance in the model. I think one thing but before I make that point, let me show you. This is the version Ruan and my team usually makes for me. I refer to it as the Village Idiot version with lots of pictures. So the students, the data set that we're using is 5 years worth of data, 35,000 students, and we're looking at that data to develop algorithms and predictive models, and we hopefully would like to categorize students into the 4 categories that you see there. This is one of the models, colleagues. One thing which I've learned is if you have one model, it's not sufficient. In this work, getting, what was it, 280 models is not something small. So it's par for the course. And we're trying to categorize and see if what our model can accurately place students in these 4 groups, right? What does that mean? Once we use the historical data to create this kind of prediction and the current models are looking fairly robust in terms of accurately predicting students on just a couple of variables straight after registration, right? That we can already then figure out which students we might send a message to just remind them, if you're in the 0 to 25 category, we have advisors, right? Advisors are there to help you with your journey. Feel free to contact them. Or we add in the nudge, the email, right? For the next group, might we immediately make them also aware of a step? Or might we do both for the bottom group? For the third group, is only a nudge now and then going to be enough to keep them on track? And then for the top group, might we already make them aware of leadership opportunities and additional enrichment opportunities that universities are so good at offering people that are attending them? Right. So our experiment with nudging, this was in a humanities course of 939 students, as you can see there. You can see there were 3 groups here, a fairly large failing group, passing group, and then a small distinction group. And we tried 2 nudges between semester tests. This is our first foray into nudging. We're in awe of the work that Jean-Claude and the University of Pretoria has already done in this field, so we keep learning from each other. But what you can see here is when we told students, we nudged them to go to a presentation, there wasn't a lot of uptake. But when it was a video and a quiz, there was much more uptake, right? So what we learned out of this experiment, we're now waiting for the marks to be finally audited so we can see if there was an impact on academic success. But what we're showing here is that there's also a clear preference to what kind of nudge will get students to respond, right? Some of the interfaces that we're because this is about, and maybe before I go on, just to say this, I emphasized this in the workshop this morning. People underestimate the amount of people work that are needed for data work. That's needed for data work, right? It's not shocking that all your data systems are in silos if all your people are in silos. That's not a shocker, right? And a lot of data analytic work is people work. Just go to the nearest Siyaphumelela institution and start talking to people about the people work involved in this. Getting IT to talk to institutional research, to talk to the advisors, to talk to the teaching and learning centers. Right? We're not even at the faculties yet because there's significant work, and if I look more bald, fatter, or more tired, it's because those conversations are continuous, and every new stage comes with a different challenge, right? People are very aware of what data can show about their work and what power there is in data. And those things you have to navigate very carefully. In terms of developing new interfaces, we've got the beginning university survey of student engagement. We've got e-templates now. It might be a bit far for you, but you can see this student in the Busi survey, so students do this in the first month, said, I'm expecting to have difficulty with my finances. So an advisor can draw this data, and immediately when they talk to that student, make sure, not ask a student, I see you have money problems. No, make sure that that student is aware of how financial aid works, what is available, what's their conditions. Just a sensitizing way the data sensitizes and creates better efficiency during the human interaction. The next example there is this student is concerned about their computer information technology. The advisor can just say, are you aware of the Student Success Portal? We have free typing programs on there for you to do. It also refers you to software, right? So one of the interfaces we've developed. This is collaborative work with the University of Pretoria. And in the US context, they are very lucky to have multiple private providers. In South Africa, we don't. We're building many of the systems you now take for granted. So we're working with IDSC, the IR people in the room, that's the Power HEDA people. So We've developed a case management system with them. You will see that it will track by appointment. It will say why. You will be able to put in here why the student came and how long the visit was. And then you will also get a view of where the student was before. There will be regulated access. Not everybody will be able to see everything about a student. And colleagues, why am I talking in the collective? Because the University of the Free State in Pretoria felt very strongly that we needed to create a resource for the whole system. Right? So I don't know whether in some of the presentations you'll see the IDSC prototype. It's a bit prettier than this. But this is a system we're developing that everybody can use it. So you're leapfrogging the 5 Siyaphumelela institutions immediately because we've all reached this point that we wanted these systems. Then what I'm most proud of, especially because of the people I get to work with in my own team, is the work that we've been doing in capacity development. As you know, SASSI was a requirement for Siyaphumelela, I think we call it now 1.0. Through that measure and the use of it, we tried to create a common language in the system around what actually does a high impact practice mean. What does academic advising mean? And we've done users workshops at 21 institutions now. And when I said to my staff, is it 600 people? They said, no, they think it's more than that now. Where we have a tool where we help people that work with the SASSI data to get over their initial fear of numbers. A data tool that helps them to analyze and start asking the questions. Because data analytics is just like research. If you don't know which question to ask, it's a bit difficult to start getting answers. So the analytical capability that we need in our system is what we've been working on. The data analytics workshops at Free State, this was a very interesting thing. We asked, we at the CTL put together a data analytics workshop. Ruan did that, and a venue of 40 was immediately full. Everybody from the languages through to student administration wanted to know about data analytics. So I think you might be surprised if you start doing this work, how many people are actually interested in it, because there's nobody's work who's not affected by data in a university. Thank you, Evodia, I will stop. And then, so Ruan has developed a basic, intermediate, and advanced workshops. You can go to his session and get some of the learnings that we've learned from that. And then finally, with Gugu, we've developed the Academic Advising Professional Development Short Learning Program. This is an initiative that's sponsored by DIET through the University Capacity Development Grant and includes MUT and UCT, including all the Siyaphumelela partners. And those very attractive and enthusiastic people is the next generation of academic advisors, the first cohort to be trained professionally in the country. So with those faces, can we have anything but hope and enthusiasm for this work? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Francois. And we really admire some of the leading work that you're doing in these fields of student success initiatives. Colleagues and visitors and friends, I think we don't really have time for questions because the next sessions are about to start. But I think during the course of tomorrow and so on, you can always approach Francois if there's something that you would like to discuss with him. Thank you very much for your attendance and enjoy your next sessions.